Welcome to tonight's Salt Lake City Council formal meeting. We're continuing to hold our meetings remotely due to the declarations of emergency related to the pandemic and earthquake. While we hold our meetings remotely, we are happy to have you connecting with us by phone or watching along online or on SLC TV. Thank you for joining us. To begin, we'll take a moment of silence as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. When we're done, I will go ahead and turn the audio back on. So if everyone would go ahead and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to yourselves. Okay, conducting our meetings electronically is different than our regular in-person format, but we do still have some meeting guidelines to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and safe to participate, which I will cover under the public comment section of our agenda. We are now at item A4, which is approval of minutes. The council, I'm looking to approve the formal meeting minutes of Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. We'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Thank you, James. Just kidding. That was intentional.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston, a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Johnston.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That is unanimous. We will move on to section B of our agenda, which is public hearings. The standard order for our formal meeting agenda has been adjusted to accommodate our electronic meeting format, and we're going to combine sections B and C1 of our agenda to include general comments and public comments on various items scheduled for tonight. In addition to the comments given tonight, our office has received a number of public comments through email. Those will be included as part of the public record. I want to take a minute to explain our electronic meeting process. Although we're all joining the meeting electronically, we do still want to provide a space for people to feel comfortable and safe to participate. To help facilitate our comment period, please be respectful. Avoid yelling or making racial slurs, obscene, or defamatory remarks. Please note, if a caller is not respectful, you will be given one warning. And if a caller continues to not follow the council's meeting rules, we will mute your microphone. Bobby Nutzman is our staff person and or Amanda Lau, and they will be messaging with the attendees to coordinate on public commenting. Please monitor the chat screen for information and or feel free to message our staff with any questions. Again, the people helping us are Bobby and Amanda. Once we open public comment, our meeting host will identify the names of 3 commenters at a time so that people have some notice to be prepared to speak. If you do not wish to speak, please message our staff and let them know when the host states your name, or just let us know that you're here to listen when your microphone's on. If you do wish to speak, when the meeting host turns or unmutes your line, please state your name, indicate which public hearing item or items you wish to speak to, or whether you have a general comment, and the 2-minute timer will begin. At the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time on your microphone and it will be muted. If you indicated that you want to speak on more than one item, the host will then prompt you to move on to your next topic. If you're unable to complete your full comment within the available time, please feel free to mail the Salt Lake City Council at P.O. Box 145 476 Salt Lake City, Utah 84114 5476. Or you can email us at council.comments@slcgov.com. Or you can call us on our 24-hour phone line at 801-535-7654. I hope that information is helpful. In addition to our general public comment period, there are 7 public hearing items posted for tonight. Item B1 is an ordinance that would increase the building heights within a portion of the Gateway Mixed-Use Zoning District located on 2 separate blocks between 500 West and the railroad tracks, or approximately 625 West, and 200 South and 400 South. Item B2 is an ordinance that would approve vegetation reduction permits for wildfire mitigation. Item B3 is an ordinance that would amend the zoning map for several parcels located at 2960, 2964, and 2970 South Richmond Street. Item B4 is an ordinance that would amend the zoning map and master plan for a property located at approximately 261 North Redwood Road. Item B5 is an ordinance that would modify Chapter 18.44 Fire Prevention Code to provide alternatives to the proximity to building requirements found in Appendix D of the International Fire Code. Item B6 is an ordinance that would rezone the east half of a property at 989 East, 900 South from residential/business zoning district to community business zoning district. Item B7 is an ordinance that would update the transportation section of the city's impact fees master plan. Amanda and Bobby, would you please start our public comment period?
Council Chair, I apologize about that delay. Amanda looks like she's got the system.
Hi,
back up
Council
again.
Chair. Sorry, my audio broke while you were talking for a second.
No problem. Glad you're back.
Council Chair, this is Amanda. Just checking, we're starting the comments now. Is that correct?
Please.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, 1 second. Thank you, Council Chair. A quick note for all of our attendees joining tonight. Everyone who has joined will be added to the queue. We will be posting the next 10 names in the chat so you can see who is coming next. If you're here just to listen, feel free to let us know by sending a message to Robert Nutzman. Thank you so much. And with that, first off, we have Brandy Burnham, followed by Dee Brewer, and then Eric Parkinson. Brandy?
I apologize. Can I pass on making a comment? I'm so sorry.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
of
that's
course.
fine.
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry. I apologize.
No, that's fine. Brandy, do you want to make a comment later, or are you just here to listen?
I think I'll listen this first time and then I'll comment in the future. I apologize for that error.
No need to apologize. That's just fine.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dee Brewer, followed by Eric Parkinson, and then call-in user 2. Phone number has 817. Dee Brewer?
Thank you very much. Hello, council members. It's nice to see some of your faces again. I'm here tonight. First, I want to say thank you for the funding you have provided for programming that provides services to people living unsheltered. And we are seeing more people living without shelter. And I am concerned about that, and the downtown community is concerned about it. I'm here to speak in support of continuing funding for programs that help individuals get the services that they need and the shelter that they need. And I'm speaking specifically to the programming that the mayor and the administration has developed to intervene in encampments. There are various opinions about what we should do. I know that when I have had friends and family in crisis, it has been important that we as a community intervene and help them find a path that is sustainable and healthy. We have friends, we have community members who are in crisis on the streets of Salt Lake City. we need to intervene. We need to help them find that path. We need to help them into services. We need to help them into housing. They are in crisis, and in some instances are not in a position to blaze that trail or forge that path on their own. So I conclude simply with that. Thank you for providing the funding that you have, and I would encourage you to continue that funding so that as a community we can intervene and make a difference and an improvement and help individuals move toward that path of a sustainable living environment and to get the services that they need. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Dee.
Next, we have Eric Parkinson, followed by Colin User 2, and then Adam Rex. Eric Parkinson.
Hello, thank you. I also wanted to speak concerning the issues surrounding our shelterless community. And I'd also like to echo the comments that I think that it is incredibly important for us to be putting as much funding towards assisting this community as possible. But I would like to push back on the notion of intervening on these camps. As we saw during the last winter, intervening in these camps does not actually look like finding these people resources and getting them into places where they are able to get assistance. What it actually looks like is confiscating their survival items, beating people, arresting them, and ultimately just acting violent against a community that is already one of the most vulnerable in our city. The reality is that we don't have the resources to provide for everybody who has been put onto the street, and that is because of funding cuts that have been made to these resources in the past few years. And while I am hopeful that we do in fact see emergency shelters during the winter, the reality was that last year that was grossly insufficient, and the announcements made by the mayor still look to be insufficient for this year, especially in light of an oncoming eviction crisis regarding COVID-19. So I would hope that the council would be willing to consider putting more funding towards actual shelter resources and not to engage in breaking up camps that ultimately just causes more damage. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Next, we have Colin User 2, followed by Adam Rex, and then Gary Schlubus. Oh, it seems Colin User 2 has, oh, there you are. Colin User 2 with phone number has 817.
Yeah, my name is Jordan Talley. I would like to absolutely echo the statements from the first two callers. I mean, I appreciate their willingness to speak on this. I want to talk about, the homeless encampments. I would say first, I was at the last abatement that was done last Thursday. I saw with my very own eyes kind of how it went down. I did see that it was met with a lot of opposition, but what I would like to personally see is more transparency from the city in how they plan on taking care of these abatements. Because like caller number 2 said, I mean, we've seen in the past that it's just been done horrifically. It's inhumane. It's sad to see people lose their belongings because they had to go to an APNP meeting or they had a hospital visit or something like that, So, I mean, one of my main things is adding funding to these kinds of programs, adding funding to these people that so desperately need our help as a community. But as far as the abatements go, I see the need for it. I see why the city has made such a, why we have a 12-week program coming up where we're doing weekly sweeps. I would just like to see the city, I guess, be transparent about how they plan on doing that and how we can actually be a resource to these people instead of spreading them all over the city, because that's just going to perpetuate the problem. But that's all I have for this one here. But I think the first two people kind of hit the nail on the head with that we need funding quick for these people because of the oncoming pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next, we have Adam Rex, followed by Gary Schlubus, and then Emily Radivojevic. It seems Adam has left And so next we have Gary Schlubis. Gary? Their audio seems to not be working, so we will troubleshoot with Gary. Next, we have Emily Radivojevic. Emily? Emily, are you there? We will message Emily to see where she's at if she'd like to comment. Next, we have Ted Boyer, followed by Sam Se, and then calling user 3. Phone number has 462. Ted? Ted Boyer, are you there?
I am here. I'm just listening for the appointment calendar coming up later. So I have no comment. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ted. Next, we have Sam Se, followed by calling user 3, and then Ava Anderson. Sam?
Hi, my name is Sam Say, and I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments of the first speakers. Having worked in homelessness services in Salt Lake City for many years, just want to echo that I do believe more funding is needed as well for programs to support mental health and a lot of the other factors that lead to folks being unsheltered before any drastic measure is made concerning these camp abatements, as well as the comment about more transparency with the cost of helping a few, which was what Operation Mayo Grant intended to do, and really it just caused long-term damage. So the cost of helping a few when it damages the whole unsheltered community, I don't believe those ends necessarily justify the means in which that was done. And just, yeah, I think the previous speakers also hit the nail on the head. We just need funding quickly. The effects of COVID-19 on the most vulnerable population, as well as all of the things that are also vulnerability factors, are just, we need to, I think, push for funding on things and not just push the solution to criminalize being unsheltered, because we've seen the long-term effects of that causing damage to that community. Thanks for your time.
Next, we have calling user 3. Phone number has 462, followed by Ava Anderson, and then Emily Allworth. Calling user 3, if you could please state your name and then your comment. Calling user 3, phone number has 462. We'll have to go back to calling user 3. Ava Anderson. Ava?
Hi, my name is Ava Anderson. I also want to speak in support of our unsheltered community and against these camp abatements that we've seen are really not helpful, especially in the long term, and really harmful to these individuals. As a social worker in the community, I can see the effectiveness of programs for mental health services and substance abuse. And other really great programs that need funding really severely, and especially housing for this winter that can be distance and safe for our community. Thank you.
Next, we have Emily Allworth, followed by calling user 4. Phone number has 229, and then Ethan Peterson. Emily?
Hi there. I'd like to talk about a few things. I want to support the appointment of Dr. Ivis Garcia and Moana Uve Hafoka. I think that both of them made a really great argument as to why they'd be qualified, and I'd love to see them part of our government. I'd also like to support the future budget amendment Aaron Mendenhall has promised to put in place, supporting the 4th Street Clinic. I believe that that will be a really great help to solve some of these issues that are being discussed today. I also would like to personally call on Erin Mendenhall to address the quote that she had earlier in the meeting. They were discussing some of the abatements of housing and moving around homeless people's things, and there was a quote that she said about portable toilets not yet being deployed, and I'm kind of wondering why you can find specific spaces that need to be sanitized and have people's belongings moved around, but you can't deploy these accessible utilities to those same places. I think that a better solution to taking people's belongings when they are in need and have very few things would be to provide accessible toilets and clean washing facilities, as well as needle exchanges for those people. So instead of having to take their things because they're soiled, prevent them from being put in that place to begin with. I think giving people resources preventatively, as opposed to taking away things when people are unable to take care of them themselves, is a better way to approach the situation and would really help to solve some of those issues. I also believe that the issues at hand with hazardous materials need to be defined clearly on the website and given appropriate notice so that people can to close their belongings. Thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 4. Phone number has 229, followed by Ethan Peterson, and then call-in user 5. Phone number has 842. Call-in user 4. They seem to have left the call. Next, we have Ethan Peterson, followed by call-in user 5, and then Mia McDonald. Ethan?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what a lot of other people have already said, which is that this city, both the council and the mayor's office, have a history of neglecting and actively harming unsheltered people in this community. And like, it needs to stop. The community has been kind of battling you and your police for a long time over this. And the hand-wringing about the complexity of the issue and the hand-wringing about the resources is pure fabrication. It's not real. Earlier callers expressed appreciation for the funding being provided. Well, it's insufficient, and it's immoral that you can't get more funding to this. It's a lack of political will and a lack of humanity on your parts, and it's immoral. You add $10 million for Utah police to get grenade launchers, M16s, 1,230 rifles, an MRAP, another MRAP, from 1998 to 2017 alone. You have money for that. You have money for weapons of death and destruction, but you can't protect some of the most vulnerable people in the community. It's disgusting. Last year, your police were throwing people's belongings and survival gear in the garbage on a regular basis, and they were terrorizing any community members who stood up to them, beating them, throwing them in cages, and going out and actively looking for people. One woman was arrested last year for a warrant for jaywalking and was thrown in a cage for jaywalking. That is not a spirit of cooperation or humanity or concern for unsheltered people. That's cruelty, and it shows a malice towards our unsheltered neighbors and relatives. The state recently, with their budget, pretty much gave $25 million to tourism marketing and closed a bunch of community clinics. When your cops go out, they're going out with guns. They're going out with pepper balls and with weapons. That's not to help. And the council and the mayor's office are a disgrace. You need to actually serve your constituents.
Next, we have Mia McDonald, followed by Nate Housley, and then call-in user 6. but it looks like Mia is having some mic issues, so we will troubleshoot. Up next, we have Nate Housley. And then call-in user 6, phone number has 859, and then Ann Charles. Nate?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I want to, along with the other callers, I want to speak in favor of the city council and the mayor, you know, taking into consideration really the welfare of unsheltered people in our community. You know, stop clearing out the encampments. You know, long term, we've seen a pattern of the city trying to sweep a problem under the rug and try to push people away without addressing the root of the problem. And you know, cleaning out encampments is another step in this pattern of trying to, you know, address a symptom rather than a cause. And the cause is you know, there's a number of things. Affordable housing is one of the direct causes. So if we want to see, you know, if we want to see less chronic homelessness, the answer is not to throw away people's belongings and shuffle them around to other parts of the valley. You know, the closing of the road home was an attempt to do that, and the resources were not there. So we need to see resources for these very vulnerable people during a pandemic, and not, you know, as a few other callers have mentioned, not more money going to police, not more money going to tourism. This is life or death, and I hope that you will all, you know, consider it on those terms, and you know, address the root cause of people being unsheltered. Thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 6, phone number has 859, followed by Ann Charles, and call-in user 8, phone number has 905. Call-in user 6, if you can state your name and then your comment.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Murdoch. I live in Ballpark area. Also, I go out on a regular basis and provide items to our sheltered community: pillows, tarps, tents, clothing, and it really upsets me to think that I use my own resources to go out and help this community, and the police are going to show up and dispose of those things. As a community member, that concerns me. I'm upset that they've taken the toilets down over by the ballpark area, and there was a big community there, and the police have been there almost every day to break them up. I'm not sure why. I don't know. But caller before the last, I want to say I stand with about everything he said, that it's inhumane the way that they're being treated. There's not enough resources. We need mental health counseling. We need a permanent long-term solution to the housing problem. There isn't even enough housing for people that qualify for housing. I know people who have gone into the housing office to try to get housing that would qualify just because they're on disability, and they're told there's years wait. It's just not acceptable. So that's all I have to say. I'm angry, and I would like this to be addressed quickly, and something that's going to be permanent, not more like a Band-Aid on a bleeding wound. It's just nothing's helping anymore. We need to do something better. That's all.
Next, we have Ann Charles, followed by call-in user 8, phone number has 905. And then we'll try to go back to Emily Radovojevic. Ann Charles?
Hi, I want wanted to reiterate a lot of what others are saying. We should stop the camp abatements until we actually have a plan. We might, I just wasn't able to find in-depth details. I listened to Erin Mendenhall's talk that she gave on the Salt Lake government TV, and there were some vague plans. I just wasn't able to find all the details of what that response was going to be. So either let people know fully what that's going to be or stop what you're doing, because we're just moving people around the city instead of actually providing services. Like, the shelters are not safe right now with a pandemic, and they don't have a place to go. And so if you're just moving them around, it's not actually solving the issue. It's just making people feel a lot more comfortable not having to see a camp where they are or where they're walking. Michelle Flynn, the previous director of the road home, had a really good op-ed in the Salt Lake Tribune where she was talking about how housing is healthcare. And Mayor Mendenhall, you had said that health is your priority in your COVID response winter plan. And so this should be a priority, solving and providing services to those who are homeless. We need to drastically rehaul how we address it. Shelters are not going to work right now with a pandemic. It's just going to intensify the issues. I really applauded your guys' response to the recent crazy weather that we were having. There was a ton of transparency. I knew exactly what was going on. You should provide that same transparency and information to this issue and to every issue. People should know exactly what's going on, what your plans are, how they can get services in the same way. So thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 8. Phone number has 905. Followed by Bridget Dunbeck and then Liz DeFries. Call-in user 8, if you can say your name and then your comment. Call-in user 8, phone number has 905.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm here to listen. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Next, we have Bridget Dunbeck, followed by Liz DeFries, and then call-in user 9, phone number has 254. Bridget Dunbeck.
Hi there, my name is Bridget Dunbeck, and I would like to talk about, as everyone else has, how our unsheltered community has been treated over the last few weeks, and the future plans that the Salt Lake City Council has for them. I'm really concerned, of course, against the camp abatements and what this is doing to an already vulnerable community. I was so heartbroken to see that treatment of our unsheltered community after a devastating windstorm with dropping temperatures and people losing what supplies they do have. I will acknowledge, of course, the effort to put up heating shelters to help keep some of these people warm. But the next day when you're going around and taking people's stuff, it's just not great. Especially as we're now going to be seeing an increased homeless population due to COVID and people experiencing economic troubles. We need real solutions. We need real answers, not little bandages, as was previously said. We need money. We need services. We need compassion. And one final thing that I would like to address is the transparency on this project. I'm really concerned that I spent 30 minutes on the website, on your website, and was not able to find any information. I'm meeting with coworkers and they're like, that's not happening. No way. That's not how we do things. I was like, wait, pause. Let me find it. And I couldn't. And that's not appropriate. And that's, especially for someone who's spending time searching, I think it's good to communicate openly with the populace, especially about things that are contradictory and create big emotions. So that's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Liz DeFries, followed by Colin user 9, phone number has 254, and then Mike Brack. Liz?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to again echo the voices of fellow activists by saying that I vehemently oppose the city's continued planned attacks on unsheltered folks in the city through the COVID-19 winter plan. We're demanding an immediate end to this plan and an immediate reinvestment of the budgets to address the root causes of housing insecurity, including affordable healthcare, employment, and renters' rights. We demand the City Council utilize harm reduction strategies, including legal campsites and more public restrooms and showers. I'd also like to take a moment to respond directly to the mayor's Facebook post earlier today, as there are some that were around this issue, as there's some clear inaccuracies in the stated goals of the project and the actual realities of these camp abatement projects. Her first point states, quote, people will have proper advance notice that a cleaning event will happen, end quote. The city has repeatedly posted notices with no dates or times. Additionally, health department officials have actually told activists that they don't have to give notice anymore. The mayor's second point states we will provide outreach and offer available services to campers. This is also inaccurate. There has been no evidence of outreach attempts at any abatement so far. So if this is happening, it needs to be happening on a much larger scale, and there needs to be evidence of this because we're not seeing that. The mayor's third point states we cannot and will not require people experiencing unsheltered homelessness to permanently move without having an option for where they could go, end quote. But really, abatements are only phase 1. Phase 2 is camp closures enforced by Salt Lake City PD. Also, when Councilman Johnston asked the mayor where campers are supposed to go, the mayor and her chief of staff said they hoped the county will have warming stations. So where's the plan for any of this? The fourth point, the health department will only dispose of items that have been abandoned or are determined to pose a health risk. The problem with this is that rather than helping to sanitize or repair items, the city is just throwing out necessary items like sleeping bags, tents, and blankets. And there's really no safe options with COVID and this pandemic. The fifth point, campers will not be cited for being homeless as part of cleanups. We weren't aware you could be cited for being homeless. We were aware that city officials have repeatedly threatened to arrest those who try to protect belongings during abatements. Basically, I just want the council to recognize the realities and harm caused by these abatement plans, not just the ideals you are hoping for, but are not actually happening. Thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 9, phone number is 254, followed by Mike Brack, and then Jinx, Utah. Call-in user 9, if you can say your name and then your comment.
Hello, my name is Michael Jones. I'm just calling to lend my support to the homeless community and speak out against the abatement protocol. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Next, we have Mike Brack, followed by Jinx, Utah, and then call-in user 10, phone number has 313. Mike?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your time. I'd like to make a comment about the way policing intersects with injustice and the way that you communicate with your constituents. I'm continually frustrated by the abdication of responsibility by the mayor, the chiefs of police, and the council in regards to the violence and injustice that we see in our police department. We saw this with the grotesque attempted murder of a child, Lyndon Cameron, who is in need of mental health resources, and we've been seeing it for years and years with our most vulnerable neighbors experiencing homelessness, whose belongings are stolen under the guise of order and public health. They're charged with crimes for even attempting to survive in a city that sees them as the problem rather than the lack of affordable housing, healthcare, and support. So I want to draw attention to a pattern. At every opportunity, our leadership and representatives claim that the issues that we see with policing and the current housing crisis are either A, rooted in policies and laws for which they have no direct responsibility, or B, addressable via symbolic art piece or a watered down reforms that will actually do nothing to address the systemic part of systemic injustice. The end result looks like the reforms that the mayor spelled out a few weeks ago, the same tired arguments about body cams and de-escalation. This is unacceptable. I believe that you lack the will to stand up for anyone but developers and business owners, and you mask this by engaging in long-term shell game until the heat dies down or until you're out of office. When the public focus shifts from the police officers to the council, from the council to the mayor, from the mayor to the DA, from the DA to the legislature, I'm sure that you breathe a sigh of relief, but I do not share your relief. Finally, I want to note that the mayor tweeted a photo of her and James Rogers touring the devastation in Rose Park after the storm. While I appreciate this, I'd like to request that instead, each of you on the council make a point to be present for the dehumanizing camp abatements and closures that we've seen criminalizing folks experiencing homelessness in the pandemic, especially as we anticipate phase 1 and 2 of the mayor's COVID-19 winter plan. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
Next, we have Jinx Utah, followed by calling user 10. Phone number has 313, and then Rhiannon Rodriguez. Jinx Utah.
Hello, so my name is Jinx and I am a committee member for the Sex Workers Outreach Project. We are a local nonprofit and we have a homeless outreach program that we built from the ground up at the beginning of the pandemic. And all of us with SWAP and everyone that I know who is doing homeless outreach right now is pretty infuriated at the mayor and the Salt Lake City Police Department, to echo a lot of the previous speakers. SWAP had several meetings with the mayor's office, and we tried to broach the topic of evidence-based policies, getting folks more resources. A lot of places are shut down right now, and with less mental health resources, less food, less access to medical care, these folks are really suffering. And, for police to go and break up their encampments, take away their belongings, and harass them and harass the housed folks from the community who are going out and trying to protect them is an abomination. And I just really would like the mayor to step up and allocate less funding for the police, more funding for homeless resources. Every winter for the past, I don't even know how many years, we've had multiple homeless folks die on the street because we're prioritizing developments, we're prioritizing the police, and not getting resources to the folks who need them, who are marginalized. And with the pandemic and more evictions happening, more people are going to be homeless. And I think if people took a second to think that they're a lot closer to homelessness than they realize, maybe they would have a little bit more empathy for unsheltered folks, and maybe they would try a little bit harder. That's it.
Thank you, Jinx.
Next, we have call-in user 10. Phone number is 313. Followed by Rhiannon Rodriguez, and then Allison Anderson. Call-in user 10. Let's see, where are you? Call-in user 10 has left the meeting. Next, we have Rhiannon Rodriguez. Rhiannon? Rhiannon Rodriguez, are you there? We'll go ahead and move to the next person. Allison Anderson, followed by Terry Van Duren, and then Cal Morse. Allison Anderson.
Hi, my name's Allie Anderson, and I wanted to speak about the unsheltered encampments. So I want to start off by saying I understand the need for the camp abatement when it comes to the health and safety of the community, human waste and things like that. Discarded syringes, like those do need to be cleaned up, and living on the streets can be traumatizing. So however we can help our folks on the street, help them get out of that situation is very much needed. So I'm an outreach worker, and I'm concerned about making sure we have adequate resources for them. I actually have a long list of individuals that want housing right now, but they just have simple barriers. Another thing is treatment beds. Right now, most treatment centers have long waiting lists, except with the exception of a few. And most unsheltered individuals that I speak with, they want these resources, but there's complicated processes that they have to go through to access them. that a lot of them simply don't have the capacity to follow through with. I help them to the best of my ability, but there's only a few of us, right? And there's so many that need these resources. So I want to speak in support of increasing funding for these programs. If there's any way to simplify the processes to make it easier for them to access these resources. And I wanted to mention like possibility of a safe zone, somewhere where they can have some stability, where we could have, I don't know if it's porta potties, sinks, somewhere where we can go and find them, because right now they're all over the place. And when there's nowhere stable for them to be, like the reality is right now there are a lot of unsheltered individuals out there, and it's going to take time to get them all into housing or get them all the resources they need. So right now, any way that we can provide stability for them so they don't have to be in constant survival, don't have to worry about their stuff being stolen constantly. I would also like to encourage the city to be very thorough with outreach, with the outreach phase of the plan, rather than criminalizing unsheltered individuals. And I also want to say I support increased transparency on the processes for camp abatement. That'd be really helpful.
Thank you.
Next, we have Terry Van Duren, followed by Kale Morse, and then Eliza McKinney. Terry?
So I just wanted to comment about the Salt Lake City Cemetery. Is that appropriate now or for later?
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment that the city cemetery has got a lot of famous people buried there. People come from all over the world to go to places like Forest Lawn. They come to Salt Lake City Cemetery also to see relatives and other famous people. My family and I, the visiting on Memorial Day has been up there along with Christmas and Thanksgiving. And the last couple of years, we have not been able to do it because we've sustained damage to our cars trying to drive through because of the potholes and the condition of the roads. So I would support some funding for repairing the roads or repaving those roads so that it can be a place of beauty, with it being one of the largest publicly city-owned cemeteries, for people to be able to come and really enjoy it and the spirit that is there. That's all I have.
Thank you, Terry.
Next, we have Kale Morse, followed by Eliza McKinney, and then calling user 13. Phone number has 466. Kale?
Hello. I also want to speak on behalf of the unsheltered community in Salt Lake City. I do outreach weekly at least. I've seen the struggles that these people go through, and I just want to say that the disgusting, unethical treatment of them by the mayor and the city is more harmful than good at all. I want camp abatements to stop now, or we will continue to shut them down. They are a waste of money and everybody's time. I want you to pull money from the murderous police department and use that to fund your Raise Up SLC instead of asking for donations when we've all been contributing to mutual aid all year long. We need safe zones for these people to camp, city permitted camp zones where you can drop off bathrooms and showers and hand wash stations, needle exchange. We need more resources from the city for these people and less police involvement and harassment. I'm regularly harassed by the police department for handing out supplies to the unsheltered community, and it's honestly disgusting. It feels totalitarian. Mendenhall, you need to step up. You've lost everybody's respect that you represent, and the only way you can save your career from here on is doing something revolutionary. Thank you.
Thank you, Kale.
Next, we have Eliza McKinney, followed by calling user 13. Phone number has 466, followed by calling user 14. Phone number has 898. Eliza?
Hi, I want to discuss Mayor Mendenhall's COVID-19 plan.
I am so deeply frustrated that we are here again, that year after year, the city continues to do the same plan that has no effect, that has no lasting change, that traumatizes people, and that wastes hundreds of thousands of dollars, not only of the city's money, but of these unsheltered individuals who have to pay these legal fees for ridiculous charges that they get during these abatements. I'm so frustrated with the abatements and how they're being handled, but I'm a lot more concerned about phase 2 of this plan with the camp closures. I'm really frustrated that when Andrew Johnston asked the mayor and Rachel Otto where these people are supposed to go, there was no answer. That instead you gave hopes, you gave expectations for the county of what they'll do, but there's been no plan put in place of where these people will go. You keep investing in the appearances of solutions instead of actually investing in lasting change, investing in low-income housing, investing in healthcare that's affordable, that's accessible, investing in employment opportunities. Instead, you keep doing these abatements and these camp closures because it looks good short-term for developers and for middle-class residents. I can't express enough how desperately these people need help. We are in a pandemic. There aren't resources for them. We cannot go in and say that we're giving them resources by having social workers hand out flyers with a list of phone numbers to call. That's not resources. The money needs to go towards actual resources for these people. We need more public restrooms. We need stations where people can shower and wash their clothes. We need warming and cooling stations. We need legal campsites. I don't understand why the mayor refuses to even engage with the idea of legal campsites within our city. Over and over again, people want you to engage in harm reduction and want you to engage in lasting change, and you won't do it.
Thank you, Liza.
Next, we have calling user 13, phone number 466, followed by calling user 14, phone number 898, and then calling user 16, 691. Calling user 13, if you can say your name and then your comment.
Hi, my name is Nancy Johnson. I actually was just listening, but I think I am going to throw a couple of comments out this evening. One thing that I have seen is I've seen the police out on BMW motorcycles. How they can justify the funding for BMW motorcycles is a disgrace when this funding could be assisting the homeless. Whoever is in charge and accountable for this funding should be fired. I can appreciate the gentleman prior to me speaking regarding the cemetery, but them people are deceased, and, you know, fixing the roads at a cemetery, I think that the homeless should take a little more priority here rather than the cemetery being repaired, their little potholes or whatnot that they may have there. Beautifying the state of Utah needs to stop. The funding needs to go elsewhere. That's pretty much what I'm saying. It is a disgrace. These people are out there without bathing, and it's a disgrace. These people, they're in their jobs and they're sitting all nice and plush until they're in their backyard. They're not going to do anything. They continue to just turn a deaf ear. And that's all I've ever seen. That's about it. That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Nancy.
I see that calling user 14 and 16 have left. So next we have calling user 17. Phone number has 629, followed by calling user 18. Phone number has 835, and then Tristan Palmer. Calling user 17, if you can say your name and then your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thanks.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mia, and I'm also here to talk about our unsheltered population. The status of that population is a sign that our city is failing as a community. And the solution is not to sweep the camps, it's to prioritize funding to programs that will actually treat the root causes. So again, I'm here to advocate for the end of the camp abatement. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you.
Next, we have calling user 18, phone number 835, and then Tristan Palmer, followed by Meredith Taylor. Calling user 18, if you can say your name and then your comment.
Yes, my name is Billy, and I am also an outreach worker. And I wanted to speak a little bit on the abatements and the overall situation with the unsheltered population. I wanted to start off by saying that I do appreciate how the abatements are now being handled, as do our unsheltered neighbors and friends. They've actually spoke directly to us about some members of the health department coming out the day ahead and meeting with them individually, sitting down with them and talking to them instead of how they've been handled in the past. And I also want to echo some of the comments about the need for increased funding for housing, for treatment, and things of that nature. We have had a number of people on housing lists and they're not able to get in for a number of reasons, a number of barriers. And I do think that we do need increased funding for that. But I do want to say that I do support these abatements and I do see where they're necessary. And I do want to give kudos to the health department and also to the police department as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
Next, we have Tristan Palmer, followed by Meredith Taylor, and then Chloe Kay. Tristan?
Hi there. I want to echo a lot of what's already been said about the abatements. I think they're horrendous. They're something that will continue to re-traumatize people who are already without home, without shelters. By continuing to do these things, we're just wasting more money doing the same old thing that we've seen does absolutely nothing. It just shuffles people around and puts them at more and more risk, especially now, right before winter. This is going to be killing people. Without any hope, these people, we're sentencing them to death. It'd be so much better to be using this money to be helping these people, to actually be doing real outreach, to focus on the actual issues of why there's public health concerns here, of why there's mental health concerns, all these things. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see that Chloe Kay has left the meeting, so next we have calling user 21. Phone number has 809, followed by Alina McLean. And then calling user 22, phone number has 832. Calling user 21, if you can say your name and then your comment.
Hi, can you understand me okay?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Cyan Larson, and I would like to also reiterate and add the importance to taking care of our unsheltered community by giving them emergency housing during this pandemic instead of sweeping up at their camps. I think that people that are unsheltered deserve housing and do not deserve to be put into prison by being homeless. And a lot of people are getting evicted right now because of the pandemic, so they'll also become homeless and add more to that prison population of being homeless. So it's just like a whole big cycle that needs to be stopped. So thank you for listening, and that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Next, we have Alina McLean, followed by calling user 22. Phone number has 832, and then Bonnie Cooper. Alina?
Hi, I would also like to speak in support of unsheltered people. And I would like to say that
leading with policing feels deceptive because it feels like you're seeing policing as a resource when it is not currently that. I would like there to be more consideration put into what actually is a resource to these people and ways that we can provide. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 22. Oh, actually, it seems they've left the meeting. Next, we have Bonnie Cooper, followed by call-in user 24, or 27, sorry, phone number 420. Bonnie?
Hi there. I just would like to speak, as so many have already tonight, about the proposed homeless encampment abatement plans and strategies. I agree with so many who've already spoken that this is a misguided and ineffective approach to supporting our homeless community members, and I just feel like you are our city council and our mayor, that I feel as though we as a community keep getting it feels like you're passing the buck off onto us, saying we need to fix this problem, but you're our elected officials and we're not seeing these problems addressed or taken care of in a productive way. Operation Rio Grande was a disaster, and I would just like to call for compassion to our unhoused community members, and just a reminder that you're serving us and that you have power to accomplish things, and we would like to see some more effective policy put in place to support this really vulnerable portion of our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next, we have call-in user 27. Phone number has 420, followed by Aaron Moore and then Roberto. Call-in user 27, if you can say your name and then your comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thanks.
Hey, I just want to express just how deplorable I really find the actions of the city and the police over the past few weeks and months. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've been experiencing hurricane-level winds here, and we're taking this opportunity to torment the homeless people of our city and take their stuff, force them out of the only place that they really have to sleep right now. I don't know how we can justify that. The Salt Lake City Police recently shot a neurodivergent child. As far as I'm concerned, he's still in the hospital. To me, this demonstrates that the police have shown themselves to be ineffective, and I believe that we should heavily defund the police, if not abolish them, and use that money to support our community and support the people. At the end of the day, your guys' job is to help us and not to shoot us or to force us out of our homes, out of our spaces. I'd also like to call for an end to evictions totally until we can get all of the economic crises that people in the city are facing under control. We have thousands of people facing eviction. That is, at the end of the day, what leads to more people on the streets. If you really want to solve the problem, the best way to address that is to tackle the root causes of it. I do not want to be ashamed of the fact that I voted for you, but if we don't start to see real change in the city, I think that might be the path that we're headed down. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Calling user 27, if you're still there and can just state your name before you go.
My name is River Water.
What was that? Sorry.
River, R-I-V-E-R.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, and next we have Aaron Moore, followed by Roberto, and then Catherine Van Sleen. Aaron?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just calling to express kind of the same thing everyone's
talking about. I just wanted to call for you guys to reconsider the COVID-19 winter plan. I think it's only going to aggravate the already desperate situations that homeless people are dealing with downtown and around Salt Lake. And I think the compassionate thing to do for that community is to provide safer environments for them while they navigate the programs that are meant to help them. That means, like some people have mentioned, allowing a permanent legal camp space, providing safe bathrooms if sanitation is the concern, which it's been said that the sanitary conditions are a reason that these cleanups are happening. Give them help keeping them clean, give them resources to keep their spaces clean. I went and helped organize some of the camps last week down at Rio Grande so that the health department would come and take all their stuff. There was a woman who was holding on to stuff that was hers, her son's, and her daughter-in-law's. Her son was in jail for something he didn't even do because he was in the hospital when the thing happened. Like, these are people who, like, this is all they have, and they're coming in literally just throwing their stuff away. So, I mean, if we care about sanitation, why are we throwing away people's belongings? We're not throwing away trash, we're throwing away their belongings, the only things they have out on the streets, which they can't get out of because we are not allocating any resources for them, or enough resources for them to actually get off the streets, find housing, find jobs. I think that stemming the flow of homelessness in the face of COVID is also really important to consider. That means providing more secure housing for people all over Salt Lake, more healthcare and access to it, more employment opportunities, and expanding renters' rights, which means ending evictions, at least for right now, because evicting people during a pandemic is literally evil. And the fact that you guys are, I know that we can't, I know there are laws and stuff and it's complicated, but like not at least trying to stop evictions from happening is contributing to more people being homeless. So that's basically it. Just please reconsider the winter plan. Please don't let people keep dying on the street. Thank you.
Aaron.
Next, we have Roberto, followed by Catherine Van Sleen, and then Alec and Ariel Genovese-Gerk. Roberto?
Hello, I am Roberto and I am with the Brown Berets. I have come out to speak today against the COVID-19 winter plan and the LA development. As the Brown Berets, we're against the unfair treatment of unsheltered people by Salt Lake City. We want everyone involved in the decision-making process to prevent the displacement of campers and the stealing of their property by the city police. We do not want unsheltered people to be arrested or given citations. We want less money in the police budget and more money in harm reduction programs and services such as warming stations, shelters, and legal campsites that many other people have talked about. We see the unsheltered population as a product of social and economic systems. These social and economic systems prioritize private property and profit over people and their lives. This system has a lack of employment, healthcare, and renters' rights. And then obviously one further manifestation is housing insecurity. So it's also out of this context that we demand an end to the LA development in Rose Park. We know for a fact that CW Urban is not interested in the betterment of our community. These luxury apartments are for the wealthy in a part of town that is made up of low-income people of color. Their developments are not affordable and are actively involved in displacing families and taking away resources from marginalized communities. We think it would be most beneficial for the community if the plot of land was given back, and that's why we are fighting the LA development and also fighting against gentrification as a process and its impacts. Thanks.
Thank you, Roberto.
Next, we have Catherine Van Sleen, followed by Alec and Ariel Genovese-Gerk, and then Natasha Wong. Catherine?
Hello, I am calling in regard to the mayor's so-called COVID-19 winter plan. I demand an immediate end to this program, as well as a moratorium on cleanups throughout the winter at the very least. I want to see that money reinvested into addressing the root causes of housing insecurity and directly supporting our unsheltered communities, like providing hotel vouchers to avoid unnecessary deaths this winter. I want to see harm reduction practices utilized to protect people who live in these camps. There are many individuals and organizations in our community already working hard to support our unsheltered communities who use these sorts of practices, but you have done nothing to support them and have in fact, according to police officers themselves, personally given the orders that allow them to harass unsheltered folks, as well as those providing actual outreach to them. I want harm reduction practices implemented that actually support unsheltered people, such as reopening and building more public restrooms or providing porta potties, instituting legal camping areas where folks can exist free from government harassment, and providing free, accessible, and safe needle exchanges. Aaron, I don't know whether you're completely naive or if this is just you assuming that your constituents are. We're going to call things what they are. This winter plan is a thinly veiled re-up of the inhumane Operation Rio Grande. These cleanups are raids on our community members. And the thread that you tweeted out today, I assume in an attempt to quell our anger at the city council meeting, was ripe with misinformation. So if you don't realize how much harm these abatements will cause to unsheltered communities, you have no place serving them as mayor. And if you do realize it, well, that's even worse, isn't it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Alec and Ariel Genovesi-Gerk, followed by Natasha Wong, and then Michelle Mower. Alec and Ariel?
Hi, thank you. This is Alec Genovesi-Gerke. I'm just here to speak in support of our unsheltered neighbors. I believe that the camp abatements are unproductive right now, and that we need to move forward with a plan to normalize or at least sanction urban camping sites. It was exciting to see a community center converted into an overnight shelter last week. And at the same time, it's frustrating to see that, these community centers have been closed for the last 6 months, where unsheltered neighbors often come to use the facilities. So as far as a health plan to help stop the spread of COVID, it's understandable that they're closed. But then when looking at the health concerns of our unsheltered neighbors, I feel like they were neglected during this planning process and the long-term scale of things. And I feel like this winter plan in itself too is just kind of furthering a continuation of problems that haven't been solved.
Okay, and I am Ariel Genovesi-Gerke. I would also like to speak about the camp abatement, and I feel strongly this should stop. I feel that a low bar, compassionate thing to do is provide a legal space for our unsheltered neighbors to camp with access to bathrooms and spaces to wash and clean their belongings. I feel that that is the bare minimum to have compassion and empathy for our unsheltered neighbors, and that if we truly wanted to resolve homelessness in Salt Lake City, solution would be, and I know that this might be something you can do right this moment, is to provide housing for every person. And while this might seem like a radical idea, I would say that it is more radical to be taking the belongings of unsheltered people and throwing them in the garbage, to be forcing people from the place that they're staying, where they feel the safest at this moment, given COVID creating unsafe situations in the shelters. And I would say that if you, in your homes, which you have been privileged to have through the circumstances of your life, through the access to healthcare and mental health care, to careers, to support networks, it would be radical if someone took your belongings and took your shelter. And we should see taking the shelter and belongings of our unsheltered neighbors as more radical than the compassionate compromises of providing them places where they can rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel.
Next, we have Natasha Wong, followed by Michelle Mower, and then Seymour. Natasha?
Hi, I'm Natasha. I live in Salt Lake. I want to reiterate what everyone else has already said. I'd like to call for an immediate end to this COVID winter plan. I think camp abatements alone are problematic, let alone camp closures. I think your stated explanations for camp abatements are simply not true for the most part. If notice is given, I know that it's certainly not clear what date or time abatements are going to happen. The outreach that you claim to do is giving a lot of resources, telephone lists, and nothing physical or material. And if anything is done, it's above all else, something that's reactive and doesn't actually provide support in the first place in a preventative manner that can prevent people from being on the streets. I don't understand how taking unsheltered folks' belongings, breaking up their encampments, and bringing the very same police that just shot a 13-year-old in your city to ensure what you call safety is serving our community. Again and again, your government has shown the callousness towards our most vulnerable members of the population. And your social justice lip service aside and claims for concerns of public health aside, it's astonishingly clear that ultimately it is the profit, the interests of developers and gentrifiers, and the sources of environmental degradation in our city, and above all else, the aesthetic of Salt Lake that is your interest, not its conditions or adjusting anything to ensure that human life can thrive here. If you're concerned with public health, I think you should give us outreach in the form of public restrooms, stations for washing, warming stations, legal campsites, needle exchanges, cuts in the police budget, resources for low-income housing and homeless shelters, and rent support. Homelessness is symptomatic of greater economic equality, and if you fail to see this, it is short-sighted and naive to believe that abatements or camp closures will solve any of these problems. You can do better, and I know you have the resources to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Just council staff, can we post the number for a lot of these comments have been related to public health, just for people's ease of access. Can we post a phone number for them to contact the health department, state and county? Thanks.
Yes, Council Chair. And next we have Michelle Moore, followed by Seymour, and then Leah Joyner. Michelle?
Hi, my name is Michelle Maurer. I'm also calling about these camp abatements. I really hope that you guys will end the COVID-19 winter plan, stop that where it is. Instead of using money for that, using that budget instead for the root causes of housing insecurities like healthcare, employment, and mental health resources. From my understanding, our current homeless services, we're spending $15 million, and the Salt Lake City Police Department budget is $82 million. And it's been stated and it's been discussed tonight, but that's just really horrifying to me that it's those police who are, shooting 13-year-old kids and murdering members of our community. Those resources and that money need to be used elsewhere. So yeah, just really hope y'all will end the COVID-19 winter plan. It's really horrifying to watch, but not surprising to watch police harass unsheltered folks and take their belongings. Instead, we need legal campsites, public restrooms, showers, warming centers, the things that have already been mentioned. It's really horrifying what police are doing and what the city is doing to unsheltered people in our community. They're a really vulnerable population, as we've heard and people have said tonight. Please, find some. I hope y'all will find some compassion for these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Council Chair and Council Whole, just to give an update, we have about 25 names remaining currently. If there's interest in a break, please let me know.
Let's go until 8:30 and then we'll take a.
Okay, thanks, Council Chair. And then next we have Seymour, followed by Leah Joyner, and then Fly on the Wall BLM. Seymour? Seymour, are you there? We'll go ahead and move on to the next person. Unless Seymour, if you're there, please let us know. Okay. Next, we have Leah Joyner, followed by Fly on the Wall, BLM, and then call-in user 28. Phone number has 706. Leah?
Hi. Yeah, my name is Leah Joyner, and I wanted to speak against the COVID-19 winter plan from the city. I want to echo the sentiments that other callers have made about this, but I also want to draw the council's awareness to research that has been conducted in our community that actually indicates that camp abatements really do just perpetuate homelessness, and that even the folks who are managing public lands and our parks and doing the camp abatements and cleanups themselves have observed that the abatements really do just perpetuate homelessness and are not an effective use of city funds. So I'd like to see the council take research like this into consideration and maybe reach out to folks at the U doing this type of work, and incorporate that into your plans to fund affordable housing, increase access to bathrooms and water, and put a stop to police harassment of unsheltered people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Fly on the Wall, BLM, followed by call-in user 28. Phone number has 706. Fly on the Wall, BLM.
Hi, my name is Natasha. I'm also here to advocate for the unsheltered community. Being someone who's been out there for months, handing out clothes, food, water, helping when they're actually being moved inhumanely, abruptly, unjustly. It's disgusting. I'm just a college student giving the clothes off of my back, giving the little money I have, giving the food, the little food that I have to the unsheltered community. That is what community looks like. Salt Lake City likes to pretend and present itself as a safe, clean, respectable, progressive, family-oriented, mind you, at the expense of the people, but all these things and so on. The people of Salt Lake City know that is not true. Salt Lake City only cares to protect and preserve its money, power, and buildings, not their people. I would be remiss if I did not mention the lack of diversity on this panel as well. You sit up there with your nose held high, you look bored, you look impatient. My only understanding, you guys must be cold-blooded reptiles to sit there listening to the people you're supposed to be representing, the people you're supposed to be looking after. We are telling you we want better. We are telling you that what you are doing, the way you're using your power to move unsheltered people, to call their stuff trash is inhumane, disgusting, and deplorable. Mendenhall, do better, fight harder. If not for the people, fight harder for another term. We have given you so many solutions and suggestions. We want better from our elected officials. And remember, you guys are elected officials. We are telling you once and for all, we are tired of the actions that you continue to show to unsheltered people. They are humans just like you, just like your family, just like your children. Show some respect and decency, humane decency. They need food, shelter, and care because they also suffer from COVID just like anyone else. They also suffer from depression and they also need mental health resources just like anyone else. Do better.
Thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 28. Phone number has 706. Call-in user 28. If you can say your name and then your comment.
Yeah, my name is Mackenzie Wolf, and I am calling in to express my concern about the camp abatement and the overall COVID-19 winter plan. I had been impressed by Utah's plan for homelessness in the past. I remember we were an example for the nation, so I know that we can do better. I've heard so many people calling in today with solutions, so clearly there are other things to be done rather than these cleanups, which clearly are not solving any problem. They are just hiding it from those who don't want to see it. I am concerned as well with the presence of the police at these cleanups. If they are just for public health and for sanitation reasons, I do not know why we would need police to be there. If the health department is feeling unsafe, that would be one thing, but I feel like it is just an attempt to criminalize homelessness and intimidate these people. Mayor Mendenhall has said that no one will be arrested for being homeless, but that's not how it works. They get arrested for other things that are caused by their homelessness. I would just like to reiterate the things that I've heard earlier today, all these plans, harm reduction. And for any business owners or residents of Salt Lake City who are listening, I want you to find in your hearts compassion and understanding for these people and maybe think about why you're so uncomfortable with them and if you really want them to be out of their camps because of public health or for other reasons. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Council Chair, if you'd like to go into a break or take another comment.
Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll continue with the comments in, let's take 15 minutes. Or is that too long? Do people just want 10? Let's just do 10. Okay. See you in 10.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and go back to our public comments.
Thanks, Council Chair. Let's see. Next, we have Antonio JF, followed by Nikita Abraham, and then Marina Marquesa. Antonio?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Antonio, representing the Rose Park Brown Berets. I'm here, you know, just to speak out to stop the camp abatement, talk about the Ellie as well. You know, just the unsheltered folks needs to stop to getting jacked, you know, by the police, you know what I'm saying, by the feds, by these organizations. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been fighting, you know, we were there last year protecting the shelter folks. We're still here, you know what I'm saying? When we try to protect them, you know, who comes and harasses them is the pigs. So that's why I'm saying that you guys have a big huge budget, you know, for the police department, but like there's no budget like there's not that same amount of money for housing and for resources for where's all the mental health professionals at as well, social workers, you know. And I also want to talk about the gentrification as well because it's connected to gentrification, like the Ellie development. We've been fighting that since March, and you know, you guys totally ignored the petition that, you know, the folks of Rose Park, you know, signed. And you know, CW Urban, they are not from Rose Park. They are from Centerville. They do not represent our community. Everything that they do is for profit, not for the people. It's nothing affordable. And you know what we need is affordable housing here because Rose Park and Glendale are the last places in SLC that are the most affordable places. So, you know, gentrification leads to homelessness. You know, a lot of our family that live in that Section 8 housing right next to the CW Urban where the early development, what's going to happen, you know, they've been in and out of the shelter, you know, and the mayor to not veto that, you know, not veto the ordinance, you know, that's mad disrespectful to us. You know, the mayor came to Rose Park, you know, like before a photo op, you know, acting like she's some kind of savior for our community. But no, we were out there helping out the people, take out the trees. You know, mayor, you don't get no respect from Rose Park. And please, yo, put the stop to that early development and put a stop to the camp abatement. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Next, we have Nikita Abraham, followed by Marina Marquesa, and then John C. Strand. Nikita?
Hi, my name's Nikita. I'm calling today to comment on Mayor Mendenhall's camp abatements and the future plans of hers that clearly aim to destabilize and harm the unsheltered community. I demand the end of these plans, as well as the reinvestment of funds into resources and services that can help the unhoused community better. This includes housing security, employment services, and both physical and mental health care. This should be a very obvious thing, but everybody deserves safe housing. By forcing people who do not have stable housing to leave the temporary shelters that they have been able to make and taking the precious items that they have for their survival, you are further disenfranchising and traumatizing them. Frankly, it's heartless and dangerous to do this anytime, but especially during a pandemic. Furthermore, what resources are you giving them? Are you providing them with PPE, access to tests, and education about COVID? I volunteered at a couple of different free clinics, and part of my job was to help people find resources for housing, affordable medication, access to employment, as well as access to healthcare. I can say pretty confidently that there are not enough resources, and the resources that do exist are distributed so widely across the valley that it is nearly impossible to find reliable transportation to these resources unless you have a car. In addition, much of the unsheltered community has to navigate a wide range of both mental and physical health concerns that can prevent them from accessing stable transportation or from being able to even use these resources. Like making appointments is really difficult. Accessibility is a huge issue and something that needs to be considered and addressed. It's ridiculous that members of the community are struggling with housing security as well as access to healthcare and medication when the police are funded so indulgently. The police have proved to be a malice to the unsheltered community as they bully and brutalize this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Marina Marquesa, followed by John Seastrand, and then call-in user 30. Phone number has 819. Marina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Marina Marquesa, and I'm just going to start with the fact that the thing with being houseless is that you do not have a place to put your things, right? So you are throwing away literally people's belongings. So let's start there. The plan for the winter is not a fucking plan. It perpetuates the same violence they got here in the first place. Like, y'all really put up a heating shelter the day after an apocalyptic storm, and then it was right back to harassing homeless people. The way the SLC terrorizes people for literally being poor is horrifying. It's just devoid of empathy. I need everyone here to think about how many paychecks you are away from becoming houseless. These people need resources. We do not need more policing. SLCPD can't even help themselves from shooting a fucking 13-year-old white child. You think they won't kill a houseless person downtown?
Sorry, you're violating our rules.
People have been donating their own money.
I'm sorry.
All right, rates of SLC, you know, you have $82 million going to your SLCPD. You can't put up a black.
If you make comments, you need to follow the rules. Everybody else that's commented so far has felt very strongly about the topics that you're talking about, and they've managed to follow the rules. So please respect them and this council, and please and make your find a way to express yourself without violating the rules. Thank you. Well, do we have that commenter anymore, or should we move on to the next?
Marina?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Marina.
Can I finish my comment?
If you can follow the rules, yes, you can.
All right, Chris. All right, so you can't put up a Black Lives Matter mural and in the same breath criminalize homelessness during a global pandemic and oncoming winter. I know so many incredible local organizers and artists, and we're watching you and your actions. We will not stand for this, and we will not work with you. Erin, girl, I know you wanted to be a part of the Craft Lake City Salty exhibition panel. I just need you to know I'm the one that made sure you will not use queer POC voices in art to make your images more palatable. We see what you're doing, and the people are supporting unsheltered folks, putting money into mutual aid, even though we're the ones unemployed, because the city is just putting more and more money to the police instead of just 15 million towards homelessness. It's just horrifying. I refuse to support such compassionless systems. Stop harassing homeless people and abolish SLCPD.
Thank you.
Next, we have John Seastrand, followed by call-in user 30. Phone number has 819. And then call-in user 33. Phone number has 822. John?
Okay, hi, thank you. My name's John Seastrand, and I represent some landowners. We own 3 acres over adjacent to the Station Center hub, and I wanted to comment about the ordinance, the zoning text amendment to increase the building height limits in the GMU zone tonight. But first, before I comment, I just want to say thank you. I've known Amy Fowler for a long time, and just listening tonight, I can't think of a better person to be balancing all these issues. And I just want to say thank you to Amy and the council and the mayor for all you're doing. I think you're going to do great things together, and I'm very optimistic and look forward to working with you in the future. I hope this zoning amendment has brought this great opportunity to your attention. There's a lot of land around the station, the hub station, that's prime location for development, and I think that area could really be a catalyst development for the entire Wasatch Front, not only Salt Lake City, and a great example of how we could use some of the public land like the UTA land and the RDA land to create affordable housing and transit-oriented development that supports clean air initiatives. So I just wanted to say, we're, as adjacent landowners, we also represent about 5 or 6 other private landowners that own 20 acres around the station center. And we've had a great experience working with the RDA, with Danny Walls, but we have not had a great experience with the UTA. And we really think that the UTA is holding back this area. We would love to see Salt Lake City and the RDA have more control over UTA and their station center development. Salt Lake Tribune recently highlighted that they're $50 million over budget for what will be an obsolete fuel tech center. There's other means of transportation that are on the horizon that will make this clean fuel tech center obsolete. So we wish you would take that into consideration and find a way, encourage Danny Walls and the RDA and the city to find a way to have the UTA cooperate more with the other landowners and stakeholders in the area. I think it's a great opportunity. Now's the time to really create great transit oriented development. So thank you.
Thank you. We can get you a number to contact UTA as well, so you can voice your concerns to them directly.
Next, we have call-in user 30, phone number 819, followed by call-in user 33, phone number has 822, and then call-in user 34, phone number has 980. Call-in user 30, if you can say your name and then your comment. Call-in user 30 with phone number has 819. Calling user 30 713-819.
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. I had myself muted. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, totally. Thanks.
All right. Hello, my name is Eva Quintus-Boz. I recently moved to Salt Lake City 2 years ago, and might I say I'm incredibly disappointed in the leadership that I've seen displayed by the mayor and also the council. I do not think that the police are a useful or helpful solution to be investing so much money in, especially considering the pale amounts that you invest in helping the unhoused. They are people too. They need shelter. They need places to keep warm, especially with a record-breaking windstorm. My power went out in the place that I lived, and I was lucky enough to have a roof over my head. And I just want to say, if you really want to make Salt Lake City a place that people care to live about, you would clearly care about the most vulnerable populations by not getting rid of their things, by building access to more areas where they would feel safe to stay, because housing is a human right. Defund the police. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 33. Phone number has 822, followed by call-in user 34. Phone number has 980, and then Maeve Haggerty. Call-in user 33. You can say your name and then your comment.
Okay, my name is Allison Douglas. I am here to support what a lot of people previously have stated. I am simply confused. I'm confused why this is being proposed. It does not make sense. This is a very vulnerable community. We need to give more than take away from them. If we are concerned about the health of other humans, which hopefully our city council would be concerned about, we need to be providing these individuals with resources. And I just want to echo what so many other people have said before me. This is not something that should be done. This is not humane. These individuals are human, and they need to be treated as such, and they need our help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have call-in user 34. Phone number has 980, followed by Maeve Haggerty, and then Sabrina Franks. Call-in user 34, if you can say your name and then your comment. Call-in user 34.
Echo the sentiments we've been hearing of putting an end to the homeless camp pushes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you don't mind sharing your name with us.
It was Shay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shay.
Next, we have Maeve Haggerty, followed by Sabrina Franks, and then Jaws, Utah. It seems Maeve has left the meeting. So next we have Sabrina Franks, followed by Jaws, Utah, and then call-in user 35. Phone number has 301. Sabrina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. I kind of want to echo some sentiments. Essentially, that homeless encampments, the CDC does not recommend clearing homeless encampments because it can spread COVID-19. So, in terms of maintaining the health and safety of the community, it's not really in line with those recommendations. Additionally, the funding just doesn't make sense. We need another shelter, or we need a permanent camping place. Shelter beds were cut by 400 last year because of the new shelters, and I love the new shelters, but they're not enough beds. And I knew those numbers were wrong when I saw them when they were being built, and this is what we're dealing with now because we didn't make enough shelter beds. There's more people on the street, and clearing encampments isn't a humane solution. Homelessness is also a race issue. There's African Americans are 560% more likely to be homeless. American Indian and Alaska Natives, 420%, Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, 129%, Hispanic, 120%. And it shows that minorities are less likely to be housed and receive services as well. And this is from a 2017 county report from HIMIS. So we really need to be focusing on funding shelters and creating a more sustainable solution because people don't get housed when they're on the street. Their things get thrown away, their vital documents get thrown away, they can't go to their meetings, they can't go to their appointments, they lose their phones. People can't get housed when they're on the street. We need a place for them to go to be stabilized. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jaws, Utah, followed by Naomi Clegg, and then call-in user 37. Phone number has 889. Jaws?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Okay, I, like the majority of the commenters tonight, am against the abatement and dispersal of the camps, as well as the winter plan. First of all, I wanted to say that Housing First has proven to be very successful. PSH has a long-term housing retention rate of up to 98%. That's the first step in reintegrating these people into society with us. We can't just leave them and have them fend for themselves like we have been. As the person before me just mentioned, this is an intersectional issue. Minorities are much more likely to be facing these issues, and that also correlates with the higher rates of brutality that they face. Meaning, if there are police around, those police, like, they might not cite them for homelessness, but they might cite them for priors or anything else when these people are literally just trying to live. We are criminalizing people who need our help, and this entire plan isn't preventative. It needs to be preventative. We need to start at the issue and work from there. It's reactionary and it's beautification. This isn't a bike lane. You can't just pour some concrete over it and pretend this issue doesn't exist. We need to allocate funds to it. Specifically, Housing First, like I said. We need to focus on harm reduction. We need to make mental health issues more services more accessible, all of those things. If you're unwilling to do Housing First, then even just a safe zone where camping is permitted. These people need community. As Nikita mentioned, their services are so widespread that they can't access them. They need that centralization of those services in order to be efficient. Otherwise, you're just wasting the money that it seems like y'all love so much. I guess that's all. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Next, we have Naomi Clegg, followed by call-in user 37. Phone number has 889, followed by call-in user 39. Phone number has 867. Naomi?
Hi.
So,
hello.
I mean, obviously, we're dealing with a lot of issues, as other callers have expressed. I think, like, some of the big issues that the council and the mayor need to be addressing right now, and are not doing a sufficient job of addressing, are related to housing. So, like, these are multiple intersecting issues. First of all, we don't have enough shelters with reduced shelter capacity this winter. This is during a pandemic. This is during volatile weather seasons. And this is during a time when it's especially unsafe for people to be crowded together in buildings where the capacity is at its limit. So the city's plan for dealing with this so far has been shuffling folks from temporary campsite to temporary campsite without enough notice abruptly. So that's one issue. The second issue is that a lot of folks in Salt Lake are still struggling with employment and with being able to afford the housing that they live in. I don't know how often the folks on the council look at rent prices. Maybe y'all own your houses, but it costs a lot to live here. And we're not doing a lot to deal with that. The city is not doing a lot to slow the pace of evictions. You guys could literally stop evictions, and that's not happening. And while all of this is going on, the number of luxury housing complexes are rapidly increasing. So to me, this says that Salt Lake City is placing a priority on the people who are able to afford this and saying everybody else should get out of this city. It's saying the people we want here are only folks who are upper middle class. Utah is a state that has prided itself on its ability to deal with homelessness, its ability to welcome immigrants and other people, but this is not the plan.
Thank you, Naomi. I'm sorry, your time is up. We will have staff. We can get you contact information to your state representatives, and we can get you the statute that shows that we actually cannot regulate rents or stop evictions. But we'll get you the contact information so you can contact the elected officials who can.
Next, we have call-in user 37. Phone number has 889. Then we'll go to call-in user 40, phone number 466, and then call-in user 39, 867. Call-in user 37, if you can share your name and then your comment. Call-in user 37, phone number has 889. We'll go ahead and move to the next person. Let's see. Call-in user 40, phone number has 466. Call-in user 40.
Hello.
Call-in user 40. Hello. Oh, hi.
Hi. I'm actually just continuing to listen
Oh,
to the
thank you
meeting.
very much.
So,
Thank
thank
you. And next we have call-in user 39. Phone number has 867. Call-in user 39.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, George. And before you start, yeah, go ahead, George. Thank you.
You sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I have comments on 7 separate agenda items, and it's your fault, Council, because you are discussing and deciding so many important issues, but don't get a big head. On the Gmu height limits, again, Salt Lake City should require buildings higher than 40 feet to have a certain amount of affordable units. Over 100 feet, it should be 20%. You can put in affordable units now by requiring that for this project and for the Sears project. Stop holding on to property thinking you can develop it better. Affordable housing now now, now. Next, Chris Wharton agenda item is wildfire vegetation fuel reduction. Dan, heads up. Again, this city needs to be more flexible on allowing use of call to haul for wildfire mitigation efforts. Scrub oak elimination should be allowed to use call to haul. Next, Chris Wharton agenda item, the Richmond Street rezone. Again, I think this is an illegal contracted rezone effectively done several months ago when the city council, as the RDA board, gave permission to buy the property with the understanding that it would be rezoned. That is illegal, and you're going to join Tooele in being shot down if anyone sues. Stop ignoring affordable housing and pass the inclusionary zoning ordinance. There is not and should not be parking on Richmond Street. This is an insult to low income because you're putting them in a very dangerous situation with the most dangerous sidewalk in Salt Lake City. Instead of mixed income, which is supposed to be city policy, you are putting in what could become a mini Cabrini Green next to single family homes instead of inclusionary zoning. You are creating what looks like, to me, a low income ghetto. Stop it. The next Chris Wharton agenda item is the fire prevention text amendment. There should be no flexibility in relaxing firefighting standards and requirements for high-rise buildings next to cycle tracks. Fire safety is too important. The city needs to recognize that cycle tracks are unsafe unless maintained more often than daily. And on the next Chris Wharton agenda item, State Street CRA plan. These are really important plans. That State Street plan alone is one of the most important issues your council, my council, is going to be has decided in the last 6 years. So my comments are: do not require property, encourage mixed use, mixed income, inclusionary, form-based zoning with impact fee reductions and flexible heights. Do not spend money on prettifying projects like lighting and trees. And saving historic buildings should not be a priority. But removing and moving car lots should be a priority, maybe to a block of car sales lots. Please consider developing the Fleet Block as the Michael Fife Park. I don't want any mid-block crosswalks. I don't want any road diets. I don't want a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And Amy, please decriminalize State Street cruising. On the transportation impact fees, please use a lot more impact fees on the most important parks and transportation project, the Foothill Trails, which is a potential world-class attraction, and please prioritize the 9-line trail west of State Street and connect it to the west side of Salt Lake City with a pedestrian wheelchair bicycle bridge over the tracks. And in general comments, Salt Lake City is inadvertently helping increase or decrease affordable housing by permitting and allowing refurbishment of apartment buildings, which first kick out low-income residents. Please stop these permits. Hawthorne Apartments is one of them, and Salt Lake City is going to be losing a lot of low-income affordable housing because you're permitting developers to do that. Please stop that. And the mobile mental health crisis outreach team is still not operating effectively in Salt Lake City. You already know that, but you can ensure that 911 pass callers to the MCOT number and other services for mental health situations and coordinate response with them. I want to personally thank Lisa Burnett, who, since she has taken over Salt Lake City Dispatch, has significantly increased efficiency in service. But one of the problems identified is the call time to respond, which is getting worse due to not enough cops. The previous callers haven't seen your efforts in the last 8 years trying to help and solve the homeless issues. I agree, Amy, Andrew, all of you are really trying hard, and I respect that. It's a complicated problem. but the mayor deserves credit ensuring that there are more services offered to homeless camps well before county health removes the camps in accordance with the state and county laws. I remember several mayors ago when
George,
folks were giving homeless
George,
garbage bags.
You've gone back to your general comments and we already concluded those. So if you have something on a specific agenda item that you haven't commented on, we can let you keep going, but otherwise you reached your time. I'm sorry.
Oh, so don't get me started on the big ass garage.
I don't think that that's on our
I'm
agenda.
joking, Chris. I'm done.
Thank you.
Unless you want to talk about Portland Lose.
Why don't you send us an email about it?
No, I think we're done with that.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Council Chair, that is our last speaker.
Okay. Thank you for everybody who called in.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
May I have a point of personal privilege?
Yes, go ahead.
I understand a lot of the concerns that folks have talked about with unsheltered camp abatements and other issues with unsheltered homelessness and the system in general. And there's some truth to what's being said. There's also probably not a full understanding of the city in relationship to the county and the coalition and the state's plans. The mayor's plans, to my understanding, are really city specific for some basic outreach within the city. The Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness, and I put the link in the chat box, has researched and has put forward best practices recommendations for winter overflow for a shelter for the winter, and they're actively seeking a location for that. The city did that last year, and they're looking for other cities as well to assist this year in the county. So that is also happening concurrently and in coordination with Salt Lake City. And I also want to put a plug in for that coalition because that is where they're actively meeting subgroups on small topics, on big topics, lobbying the legislature and cities for all the things we're talking about: housing, emergency shelter, healthcare. They lobbied hard for Medicaid expansion a couple of years ago. It's a good group. It's open to anybody who wants to be a member and join and participate any way you want to. It also helps coordinate things from the state all the way down to all the regions down to Salt Lake City. So I put a big plug into that because it could really help with more voices advocating together for these things at all levels of government. So I appreciate that. And if you have more questions, I'm sure the city can give you information towards that group, or I can help out as well. So thanks.
Thank you. And thanks for providing that information, Andrew, or Councilmember Johnston. So unless anybody else want to make a comment or point of personal privilege? Okay. Then let's go move on to agenda item B1, which is an ordinance to increase the building heights within a portion of the Gateway Mixed Use Zoning District. I'll look for motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a later date.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Mono, a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Sorry, yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We will move on to agenda item B2, vegetation reduction permits for wildfire mitigation. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That's unanimous. We'll move on to agenda item B3. That is an ordinance that would amend the zoning map for several parcels located at 2960, 2964, and 2970 South Richmond Street.
Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers and a second from Councilmember Johnston. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go. Oh, was that it? Sorry. Okay. Amy?
No, sorry.
Okay. We'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. Let's move on to agenda item B4, which is an ordinance that would amend the zoning map and master plan for a property located at approximately 261 North Redwood Road. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move the council close the public hearing and note a second public hearing has been scheduled for October 6th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes. Sorry.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We are now at item B5, which is an ordinance that would modify chapter 18.44 of the Fire Prevention Code. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move that the council close the public hearing and note that a second public hearing has been scheduled for October 6, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Mono and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion of this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. We are at item B6, which is an ordinance that would rezone the east half of a property located at 989 East, 900 South. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and note a second public hearing has been scheduled for October 6th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston, a second from Councilmember Valdemoros. So wait, is it to close the public hearing or continue public hearing?
Second public scheduled.
Okay.
So close this one and have a second one in October.
Okay. Second for, or motion from Councilmember Johnston, second from Councilmember Valdemoros. Any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll roll call vote at Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That brings us to item B7, an ordinance that would update the transportation section of the city's impact fees facilities plan. I will look for a motion.
Sorry.
Mr. Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and refer the item to a future date for action.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers and a second from Councilmember Valdemoros. Is there any discussion of this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. That brings
Mr.
us to,
Chair,
yes,
moment of personal privilege. Can we go back to item B3?
sure.
Being on the prevailing side and being a time issue with the tax credits, I'd like to go back to that and redo my motion to adopt tonight instead of to close the public hearing and defer. I'd like to amend that to close and adopt.
I'll second that again.
Okay, so I think we first have to vote to reconsider it and then to revote. Okay.
Yep.
Is that right, Katie?
This is Cindy, and yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I second that. This is Katie, and yes.
Great. Okay. So the motion is to reopen agenda item B3 and to go ahead and approve that tonight instead of continuing for another public hearing. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. So this is just to revote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay, that
Mr.
item.
Chair, my apologies, and I'd like to make the motion that we close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers and a second from Councilmember Johnston. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we will go ahead and roll call it. So we're voting on this, on the substance of the motion now. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So that is approved unanimously. Council members, we are going back on track to the agenda. We are at section C, which is the comments portion of our agenda. We've already addressed item C1, which is general comments to the city council. That brings us to item C2, which is questions for the mayor. Mayor Mendenhall, thank you for being here tonight. Do any council members have any questions for the mayor? Councilmember Rogers.
Not really question, just comments. Just Mayor, again, thanks for all of your help with Rose Park with the trees. It was an inland hurricane, and you rallied the troops to make sure each department was there, and was grateful. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thanks, Councilmember Rogers. The public services team is amazing, and their commitment to the public and doing the best they can with everything they have is enormous. So it's my hat's off to the public services team and every other department and division, and for maybe more than that, other cities who came to our aid, brought their tools and their professionals out. So it was a pretty awesome effort by Salt Lake City team.
Thank you. I'd like to second that for District 3. We lost some really beautiful trees at the Capitol and in the cemetery, and some of the damage in the cemetery was more than just cosmetic. It actually opened up some, I saw one photo that it actually partially opened up a tomb. So just the cement part, so nothing came out, but I've never seen anything like that before. So I appreciate our city crews for coming and helping and to get those down, because they also were really dangerous. And the houses are a lot closer up here, and they were falling on people's roofs and knocking over power lines. Power lines were snapping in half. So thank you to you and to your administration and public services for all their hard work. Councilmember Valdemoros.
Same thing here. I wanted to thank the mayor and the administration in general and all of the departments involved these last 6 months that have been super tough with different issues, different things that have happened. And you guys have heard us. You guys have heard us complain. You guys have also brought solutions and ideas to deal with the things that we have to deal with in the city. So I appreciate Mayor, appreciate Chief of Staff Rachel and the rest of the city and the crews. And then on a more positive note, congratulations on the opening of the airport today. It is a beautiful airport. It's one of the positives out of all this hard circumstances that we have all had to deal with the last 6 months. And I just wanted to thank the airport staff for the work and all the things that they've been able to do in incredibly 4 years, and the impressive budget and how they stayed within it, and all the things that go behind closed doors, I guess, or all the work that people do that the public doesn't get to see, and we don't either, and we see the final results. But thank you again, and I'm excited for this airport.
Thanks, council members. Mr. Chair, could I just comment that the airport is a really good example of how billion-dollar and even $4+ billion projects take a really long time, and dozens of council members and many mayoral administration. So it's an honor to be in the position that I am and that we are right now, and be able to celebrate that. But I have to take my hat off to everyone who's come before us, who made this possible, and Maureen Riley and Bill Wyatt for leading our airport so fastidiously and with such great financial care that it could be done on time and on budget, and that actually coming through the pandemic and working with our airline partners, really Delta, to save $300 million and be able to adapt the project to survive and even be successful despite the pandemic. It's awesome. So it's been a lot of people, and I'm just a lucky person to be in this position at this moment.
All right, any other questions for the mayor? All right, thank you. Also, Mayor, thanks for offering to, when we set up the temporary homeless shelter, offering to go out and drive around with me and try to do outreach and offer people a ride to the shelter if they needed one. All right, let's move ahead to item D, which is a potential action item. That is budget amendment number 2 for the fiscal year 2020 to 2021. The proposed amendment includes funding for additional publicly accessible internet access and expansion of the city's youth and family program to help with childcare and education, among other items.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move the council adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 final budget of Salt Lake City for items A2 through A15 as requested by the administration.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second by Councilmember Rogers. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes. Yes.
and I am an enthusiastic yes as well. That passes unanimously. Let's move on to section E, which is new business. We have no new business on tonight's agenda item. Section F is unfinished business. We have item F1, a resolution that would approve an interlocal agreement with the Redevelopment Agency, RDA, of Salt Lake City for the diversion of property tax for the 9-line community reinvestment project area.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council approve a resolution authorizing an interlocal agreement between Salt Lake City Corporation and the Redevelopment Agency for a portion of property tax increment to support 9-line community reinvestment area plan implementation.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second from Councilmember Rogers. Is there any discussion of this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
Valamoros?
Yes.
Mono?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That brings us to item F2, which is the resolution that would approve an interlocal agreement with the Redevelopment Agency of Salt Lake City for the diversion of property tax for the community reinvestment project area. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that the council approve a resolution authorizing an interlocal agreement between Salt Lake City Corporation and the Redevelopment Agency for a portion of property tax increment to support State Street Community Reinvestment Area Plan implementation.
Second.
The motion from Councilmember Fowler, a second from Councilmember Mono. Any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We are now at section G of our agenda, which is the consent portion. I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the consent portion of our agenda. My brain stuff is not working right now. Words. I'm
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Fowler. And did I hear a second from Councilmember Rogers? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Valamoros. Sorry, it is getting no.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. This concludes our formal meeting for this evening. Thank you, council members, and thank you, Mayor. We will stand adjourned.
On display throughout the country. One of the notable examples, and somebody that really stepped out of the box, is Thomas Hart Benton. He went around the country in the